Problem solving is needed when you have a problem. Pretty simple, right? A problem is when your performance or standard is below what's expected. So the standard or expected result is here. The actual result is here. This gap is what's caused by the problem. So you've got to find that problem and resolve it. Now, there are so many instances where when you start to see the problem or the results of the problem, they're actually symptoms. And so what you see all the time, and I know you'd be familiar with this, is people running around everywhere trying to solve all these problems, and it never actually gets to the root cause. When you're doing a process improvement initiative, it's so important to do some root cause analysis to make sure that the changes you're making and all that effort you're putting in isn't just on a bunch of symptoms, but is actually on the reason behind the symptoms. What is the cause of this problem? And that takes a little bit of investigating to get to. Why do we use process mapping to solve problems? One is there's often so many problems going on, and when you've got a lot of people in the room and there might be some passionate people about what's happening, it's sometimes hard to really narrow it down. If you're just looking at a process, it really clearly refines what it is you're talking about and the problems or problem that you're looking at. It gives us a very structured path to follow. You ask very structured questions. It's facilitated in a very structured way. So you can manage the dialogue, you can manage all of those emotions and opinions around it and stick to the fact and move through in a systematic manner. Through that approach, you can also be looking at the root cause. So there's all these things happening, starting to find out why they happen and address things at that root level where you can actually make an ongoing sustainable difference. Sometimes when you're so busy with BAU and you've got a lot of people involved in it, it's really easy to jump to conclusions. Having to go through this process methodology means that you don't jump to conclusions, because you do the whole process mapping exercise even if you think you found the problem or not. You'll do the whole exercise, you'll map the whole process, and then you start to get a picture of what's going on. And that approach means that some of the more obvious things that might influence our initial opinions and thoughts on it might be a little bit unraveled, and you might get a little bit more information and have a little bit more accurate idea of what's actually going on so you can solve it. Typically, when you're looking at problems and looking at a process, you can start to look at different options for solving them, which means that you can get more cost-effective or less resource-intensive solutions if they're available. You can't do that if you're just running off fighting fires. You don't have that thought process around it. The other main benefit around using process mapping to solve problems is that you can make sure the problems don't recur. So if they're continuing to happen, something's wrong in the process. But if you've looked at the process, you've actually addressed again that root cause. So you should stop the recurrence of them rather than just focusing on the outcomes all the time and solving those.